They led by as many as 34 points this game, guys. That sea of green just absolutely taking over. As soon as Paolo Banchero picked up his 5th foul, it was all Celtics from there on out. We've talked a lot about what went right in that third quarter, but just a little bit more, guys. When that third quarter barrage happened, outside of that Paolo Banchero foul, right, that 5th foul, obviously that helps. From an offensive standpoint, what stood out to you guys?
When I talk about the Celtics, I always bring up the fact that the Celtics are a team that base their entire frequency on a game of runs. And that's exactly what happened in the first quarter of this game when the Celtics were able to narrow down the lead to a closer status. Start going on that 18-3 run in the first quarter, and then carrying on into the second half, drawing it a little bit closer. Obviously, Tatum getting that final second bucket heading into halftime. That's going to create a lot of momentum for the Celtics team. So when you get these guys to play with a little bit of more energy, you start to see that confidence start to trickle down the roster, and you see people taking shots that are within their game, and they start hitting them at a frequent rate. When usually when they're playing a team like Orlando, you'll see it be a little bit tossed up. But going against the Celtics or going against the Magic defense, they were able to just expose those mismatches, especially as Boncaro came out of the game. You would see a lot of those matchups happen, and you would also saw the Celtics transition to forcing Franz Wagner to carry the entire weight of the Orlando Magic offense in the second half. I will sleep perfectly fine tonight if Corey Joseph and Gary Harris are the ones trying to score on the Celtics offense. And in a 7-game series, that's just not going to help them out. And defensively, it just opened up so many open looks for this team, and Jaylen Brown was able to get things rolling for himself. Getting his 3-point shot, he had a couple of good looks in the first half, but they weren't really falling for him because they were more isolation. But you started to see the Celtics round back to that team ball, that killer whale offense that we're so accustomed to seeing, especially during the last stretch of this regular season. But that was the most confident we've seen the Celtics offense since they went on that terrific run to end this regular season. And now heading into a series with either New York or Detroit, depending on who the matchup is, they are a defensive mind. They're both defensive minded opponents. However, you're going to see a lot more on the offensive end come from either of those potential matchups for the Celtics. But if you have those either of those teams playing against you, you're going to see this team rely a lot more on creating those types of looks and relying on their offense to carry them through and getting them past the second round, and just like they did in the first. And it's so imperative for this team to get their rest right now because of how physical of a series this was, and tonight was no different. Orlando was playing rough with the Celtics, and it kind of seemed like they pushed the button enough to the point where they poked the bear, and the bear ended up having 35 points on them once again.
The bear of Jason Tatum. Yes, the bear of Jason Tatum. But in this third quarter, really, the Celtics, we already talked about it to start out this program, but Paolo Banchero missing out on this third quarter for 9:46. This is a game where Paolo Banchero needs to play 48 minutes, much less miss 10 minutes in the third quarter in the most crucial moment of the game. That's what flipped the game around because And not only Paulo Banchero scoring and playmaking, not only was that missed out on the floor, it was the defensive versatility in which the Orlando Magic missed. And once that defensive versatility was gone from the floor, the Celtics were back into the groove in which they've seen all season long, which is, oh, a team, you're throwing out a 6'2" guard on us. Okay, we have Jason Tatum. All right, you're switching everything. Oh, cool. We're gonna go. Pass the ball to Jason Tatum and let him go one-on-one against Corey Joseph. Oh, you don't want to give up threes? Because guess what? This is exactly what the Magic were doing. The entirety of the series, they weren't giving up the three ball. So essentially, in this particular scenario, you have Cole Anthony out on the floor. He comes in for Paulo Banchero, and there's a major size disadvantage there for the Magic. But it's Cole Anthony, it's Gary Harris, it's Corey Joseph. Those guys are any of them are one-on-one with Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum. There's an advantage, a physical advantage, a height advantage for the Celtics in that scenario. And what Orlando was doing all series long was with their defensive versatility, they were switching everything and they were not helping on drives. They were not allowing the Celtics to take 3-point shots because the Celtics, the name of the game, is going up against guys who are smaller, less physical than guys like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, taking those guys to the hole, collapsing the defense, and either you're getting a wide open bucket or a tough bucket against somebody who is going to be smaller than Brown or Tatum, or you're getting a wide open three if the help comes over. I mean, that's what the Celtics offense wants to generate. They either want to generate those downhill buckets or those corner or wing threes, and they want them to be wide open. Well, Orlando, they were staying home on the 3-point line this entire series, and they were allowing Brown, they were allowing Tatum to go to the rim and take on their guys one-on-one. And like I said last post game or two post games ago, Orlando is comfortable doing that because they have the size and physicality to do that out there. However, once Paulo Banchero, one of their best defenders, he sits down on the bench. Orlando, they bring in Cole Anthony, Gary Harris is out there, Corey Joseph is out there. All of a sudden, the Celtics, they go, oh, there's a mouse in the house. Many places here. We want to attack Gary Harris. We want to attack Corey Joseph. We want to attack Cole Anthony in all of these scenarios. And that's what we saw the Celtics do. And how the 3-point shot opened up is when you have those lesser physical, smaller guys on Tatum and Brown, well, all of a sudden the Magic need to help in those situations because Tatum and Brown are going to get whatever they want to get going downhill against a less physical player such as a Cole Anthony. And that's why he was taken out of the lineup too. We want to mention that he was taken out of the lineup essentially in game 4 because he was the defensive weak link for the Magic. But once the Magic started helping in these situations with Cole Anthony or whoever else on ball, whether it was, Tatum, Brown, whoever was handling the ball, you have Cole Anthony, Gary Harris, Corey Joseph. If any of those guys are switched onto the ball, well, now the Magic want to help because they realize, oh, that there is a major size disadvantage for us there. We need to send two to that when these guys go to the rim. And then all of a sudden, those 3-point shots open up. So in the first half, the Magic had the defensive versatility to stay home on their game plan and keep allowing the Celtics to go to the rim. What was astonishing is in the first half, I have here somewhere in my notes. So the first half, the Celtics, they don't shoot. So they don't make a three in the first quarter whatsoever. By halftime, the Celtics, they were, let's see, at half, the Celtics were 0 of 6 from 3-point land. All right, 0 of 6 from 3-point land. However, if you look at the Celtics shooting in the first half, there were a lot of guys in which were actually shooting the ball particularly well. Tatum, he was 6 of 9 in the first half. Horford, he was 2 of 3 in the first half. Porzingis, 3 of 6. Hauser and Cornette, they were both 1 of 1. Brown, he was 4 of 10. Derek White, 2 of 5. Pritchard was the lowest percentage on the team shooting in the first half, 33%. He was 1 of 3. Everybody else, for the most part, they're either 40% or above, and particularly at 5 guys who were shooting over 50% or over in the first half, but 0 of 6 from 3, and that just shows you the fact the Celtics, they didn't find the 3-point shots in which they wanted to shoot in that first half, and even some of them were absolutely terrible shots. I mean, we had a Derek White huck up in the first half. We had a couple of them that just they weren't good looks for the Celtics whatsoever. Yet the third quarter comes around. Orlando, they go away from that defense, and the entirety of the court opens up for the Celtics, and the Celtics go 13 of 18 from 3 in the second half. And let's see, by my math, that is That's correct, right? I keep saying 13 of 18 from three. So they shot 13 of 24, if I'm not mistaken here, and they shot 6 attempts in the first half. So
We're
that's 13 of
mathematicians
18.
over here.
No, I'm
Yep.
just making sure. Like, I'm making sure that's the actual number because that's what I'll do the math behind this, but then maybe the official number. It's like, well, if obviously if you're trying to solve an equation, you have the wrong number with within the equation, you're going to get the wrong answer. So, just looking at that, the Celtics obviously they didn't find those 3-point shots in that first half, and they were content going downhill, and they were actually making a good amount of shots. But the reason the Magic had the lead at half, they were winning within all the margins. I mean, you look at the first 15 minutes of the game, Orlando 7 offensive rebounds to Boston's 1, but it just got worse as the game went along. There was, let's see, with 90 seconds into the second half, which was inching towards the moment in which Boncaro picked up his fifth foul, but 90 seconds into the second half, it was 13-0 in terms of second chance points, 12-1 in terms of offensive rebounds in favor of the Magic. So the Magic, they were up 13-0 in second chance points, 12-1 in offensive rebounds. And then at half, the Celtics 9 turnovers at half to the Magic's 4. So you see, and then the field goal discrepancy, the field goal attempt discrepancy, Orlando 47 at half to Boston's 38. And I already mentioned the Celtics were actually outshot in this game, but you saw the Magic that they had that 2-point lead at halftime. And what changed in that third quarter was the fact the Magic, they couldn't continue to commit to their defensive game plan against the Celtics. And then once that went awry, I mean, it was just an avalanche for the season. With 13 of 18, that's just insane. After you shoot 0 of 6 from 3 in the first half, 13 of 18 is absolutely insane in the second half. But that 13 of 18 is what we are used to seeing out of the Celtics. And the crowd, it felt like the crowd
Yep.
they were definitely getting under the seas near the end of that third quarter. And we had a classic playoff moment with Al Horford at the end of the third quarter when I believe it was Tatum. He dishes him the ball, and it's almost a buzzer beater. It's a buzzer beater type attempt. And Al Horford, it kind of does this front rim bounce, bounces off the backboard, goes in, and the whole garden explodes. And it felt like a moment where you can feel, yes,
Better to be
leading up
lucky
to
than
that
magic.
possession, if the Celtics were to score on that possession, the Garden was just going to explode. And of course, the ball goes in via almost miracle bounce from Al Horford in the corner. That was another Al Horford classic playoff moment and a classic Boston Celtic playoff moment. But it came at the end of the third quarter when the Celtics just went on their barrage of 3-point shooting and offensive creation. 36 points in the third quarter to 13 for the Magic, and then in the fourth quarter as well, the Celtics do it again. 37 points in the fourth quarter. We've seen this entire series. It's been difficult for the Celtics to score points. So to end the series off like that, is certainly a positive note for the Celtics. And we kind of know why. Boncaro went out of the lineup, changed the entirety of the complexity of the game, but it just shows you how important Boncaro was to that Magic team in this series, and how close the Celtics were actually to dominating this series if a guy like Boncaro wasn't if he wasn't in the lineup in this series, how close it was for the Magic to kind of let the rope go, and how thin the margins actually were for the Magic in this series. Obviously, we saw the Magic just fight their tails off for 5 straight games. But that second half, once one link was destroyed, I mean, the entirety of the bottom of the barrel just completely fell out for the Magic, and the Celtics took advantage and really came up with one of their best performances in a second half or half all season long. In a playoff setting, Game 5, closing out the series, this is exactly what you want to see out of the Celtics going ahead, especially knowing if the Celtics closed out tonight and the Knicks, the Knicks, they lost at home in Game 5. And they don't take care of business down in New York there, but they have to play an extra game in their series. That result went final before the final of this one, and just knowing that in the second half, this was a highly important game for the Celtics to pull out and win for even later on down the road, just to preserve the legs of the Celtics. But a good first round series for the Celtics to have, just in terms of confidence. I would say they certainly played a different style throughout part of this series. Certainly in this last game, in Game 5, only shooting 6 3-point attempts in that first half. The Celtics play a different style in this series, and now they can feel comfortable that, hey, if a team like Oklahoma City or Minnesota or another team out there takes away some of our best ability, in which is 3-point shooting and volume, if another team takes that away, we know we can look back to the Orlando Magic series and go, this is how we won in this series, and we can go back to that. Wasn't the prettiest of series, wasn't the prettiest of games for the Celtics tonight, but the fact the Celtics came out with the win and did so in the manner in which they did, closing the series out strong, closing the third quarter strong, closing the fourth quarter strong, especially after all series long, not really closing too many quarters strong all series. That is a tremendously positive note moving forward, and I'm excited to see what's ahead for this Celtics team, because it feels like after tonight, there's still another level to reach, knowing some of the defenses in front of the Celtics, they're just not going to be as good as this Orlando Magic defense.
Yeah, I think when you mentioned energy, like you mentioned energy of the Celtics and how they were really behind them, and I think the fans are kind of waking up. I think when Caro got those fouls and brothers got into with Mosley, and there's just a lot of animosity, like that really gave the Celtics that little boost, because the fans got behind brothers. You got behind the Banchero getting fouled out, and that just kind of gave the Celtics players another level that they could go to. So I think that was important, and it just speaks on how important energy is in the playoffs. I also want to say it's impressive that Banchero, absent of the lineup, how much of an impact it made on the team, and it just speaks volumes on Banchero's level of play and his capabilities of in the future. And I think it's definitely something that, not that we should be nervous about, but it's definitely something that we have to be wary of and be like, man, we got Banchero coming up and it's going to be something that we're going to have to deal with for a while, unfortunately. And then finally, I just think it was nice to see Brown just continuously attacking the rack and not settling, and it just shows that his athleticism, his knee he's feeling good. And the Celtics are just taking what the Magic gave them, and they didn't force anything. They didn't really try to play outside of their game in that third quarter, and that is why they had such a successful third quarter, allowing them to just pick up momentum and really carry it out for the rest of the game. So it's just nice to see the Celtics be able to have a maybe not their typical first half, but still find a way to get back into the game and find their rhythm and not stray away from what makes them successful.
Yeah, I love the point you made about Jaylen Brown attacking the rack. I thought in the second half, really once Banchero got hurt, I think Boston got out running a little bit. They got some easy points there, and the game kind of sped up a little bit. And then I think Orlando kind of went into like turtle shell defense mode, and they started putting up some tough shots and some bad shots and kind of steered away from what was working for them. And then from an offensive standpoint, that's when Boston's spacing, just everything opened up. It was like, okay, we're going to get out and run. Those quick points led to bad shots from Orlando. Those bad shots from Orlando led to Orlando starting to collapse on defense and start helping, and the Boston spacing was there. And then you got Tatum knocking down these threes, then Pritchard, and then Hauser, and then it was never enough for Orlando. And then it got to a point where I think Orlando kind of looked up at the scoreboard and thought to themselves, we're down 15, we're down 17. And then from there, it was Boston just attack. And then eventually Orlando looks up and they're down 34 and there's nothing they can do about it. And I think those series, right, that kind of between the getting out and running and then Orlando taking bad shots and then Boston applying the pressure offensively and knocking down a couple threes, sent Orlando into kind of turtle mode and got them uncomfortable. And from there, the second Orlando got uncomfortable is the second Boston just absolutely flooded them.
Yeah, and just to read some more stats here on the third quarter real quick, 11 of 17 from the Celtics from the field, 6 of 22 from the Magic, 0 of 11 from 3 from the Magic in that third quarter.
Yeah.
But you notice the Magic, they took half of their shots from 3. that quarter, which is a little uncharacteristic, which goes to your point, Rob, of them taking bad shots. So they're going away from what they're typically comfortable with. They take half of their shots from three. They go 0 of 11. They don't. And one of the things in which the Magic pride themselves on is getting to the free throw line. They only get themselves to the free throw line twice in that third quarter. And the Celtics, they get themselves to the free throw line 11 times in that third quarter, shooting 9 of 11 from the free throw line, missing two. But the Celtics from three, I mentioned the Magic were 0 of 11 from three. The Celtics were 5 of 8 from three in that third quarter. And Jason Tatum, I'm sure we're going to talk about him more later, because 13 points in that third quarter, 4 of 4 from the line, 3 of 4 from the field, 3 of 3 from three, nearly a flawless quarter for JT, a plus 23 along with Al Horford. Peyton Pritchard was a plus 21 in that third quarter. So just reading some of these plus minuses, I know you shouldn't put a ton of stock into plus minus, but when you read it on a quarterly basis and guys are playing 7 to 12 minutes here, that plus 21, that plus 23 is certainly impressive within a lineup. And just seeing some of the Magics, you see Paolo Banchero obviously in that third quarter only plays 2 minutes and 14 seconds. And that made all of the difference, because after him, he had 2 points in that third quarter. After him, Franz Wagner led the way, 6 points for the Magic in that third. And then you have Wendell Carter with 2, and then you have Jonathan Isaac with 3. And that makes up the entirety of the 13 points for the Magic in that third quarter. And you also see 4 turnovers for the Magic in the third quarter. The Celtics 0 turnovers in the third quarter. And that was something that was actually huge for the Celtics in that third quarter as well. Just knowing in the first half, the Celtics, they were at a disadvantage from the turnover battle perspective, 9-4. The Magic, even seeing the shot attempts here, the Magic still took more shot attempts in that third quarter than the Celtics, 22-17. But it was so big in this series for the Magic to win all those little margins, win all those little hustle stats, especially getting to the free throw line and the turnover battle, the second chance points battle, the field goal attempt battle, all of those little tiny battles within the game of basketball and statistics. But the turnover battle in particular, 9-4 in the first half, the Celtics are down at half. And then in the third quarter, they don't go out. They go out there and they don't commit a turnover. So just looking at the numbers there, I mean, obviously we know the reason as to why the Magic fell apart. It was the absence of Banchero, and then just the slew of Celtics offense. And Rob, you mentioned it, the Celtics got out and ran, put some pressure on the Magic, and then the crowd. That's where gotta give the TD Garden crowd some credit tonight. We're always talking about, oh, are they the same? Because all these season ticket holders are different. And Andrew, I don't even know how you got the thumbs up just now. They got the thumbs up. Did you see that?
I did not
But
see
exactly, like a thumbs up to this TD Garden crowd tonight, because we're always picking on them for not being as I mean, I guess it's nostalgia. It's nostalgia, like knowing from the past. We're like, oh, the past was, all this ruckus from the crowd and all this trash talk and all this rambunctiousness, and now it's like, oh, everybody in there is paying $400 for a ticket. It's like, I'm just gonna sit down and be quiet here. I'm not gonna say anything. But hey, the crowd in that third quarter, I'll say, they certainly got behind the scenes, and they were a part of that run, and they were part of applying the pressure to the Magic, because you noticed at a certain spot in that third quarter, and they were panning to Paulo Banchero on the bench, because they knew once that run was happening, it was like, oh, boom, pan to him on the bench.
He looked like he checked out right then and there. He looked like,
but it was such a moment of hopelessness for him and the Magic. Like we've seen that before in the past as Celtics fans. In the distant past, these Cleveland Cavaliers series, the 2015 first round series against the Cavaliers, the series against the Hawks in 2016, the series against the Cavs again in 2017, where you just have these moments where LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love, they're going insane, and you're just sitting there going, I don't know what to do. Cleveland's home crowd is going crazy. These guys are on. They're chest bumping. They're clapping hands. They're high fiving. They're going crazy. And it's like, we can't even get a bucket. We can't even get a stop. Like, what? How do we even do it? Like, everything is just collapsing. It's an avalanche, and that's what it felt like for the Magic. At some point in time, it was just a hopeless effort in that third quarter. And the crowd, I'll say, big kudos to the crowd tonight, because they certainly showed up for the moment as the Celtics did on court. It made for yet another classic playoff moment, but it also made part of the difference within this game, especially in that third quarter.
It did. Franco, I'm sorry. It looked like you had something to say before we go into Jason Tatum here.
Oh yeah. Well, I was just gonna bring up that once this game came back to Boston, I knew that it was going to be hard for this series to not end in a gentleman's sweep. The the energy around TD Garden, especially around playoff time, really has an effect on such an emotional team like the Boston Celtics, led by Joe Mazzulla, who's a very big momentum energy guy, and it was just a different energy that is almost impossible to stop for the Celtics in the playoffs. When TD Garden erupts for the first time, it's really hard to quiet them down. And to piggyback off of what Seamus said with the fans, I think the fans did a great job tonight. It's very hard for uh, the true passionate fans like us and a lot of Celtics Nation to get into the stadium. But if they are, use the SeatGeek Celtics Weekly. We'll take $20 off. Green for
It's the
good
code,
tickets,
folks.
red for bad. But it's hard to find that many green tickets when your bank account looks like ours over here on Celtics Talk Weekly. But it was just a really hard fought game that I saw Orlando bring that fight to the Celtics at the beginning, but I during those struggles when the ball was getting turned over in the first quarter, Orlando was able to stride out to a little bit of a lead. I knew that it was going to be a little bit short lived, and obviously the Celtics were going to battle their way back into the game. If the Celtics or if the Magic were able to continue out their defensive prowess that they played with in the first half of tonight's game, I think we could be looking at a closer game and probably more of a nail biter to end this series. But even with Boncaro, if per se Boncaro only had a couple of fouls and was comfortably in that third quarter, I don't think it would have made too much of a difference. Obviously, the defense was rearranged for the Orlando Magic, but other than that, I just think that the Celtics were inevitable to
Right.
get that hot streak from the offensive end.
They
That's an
were. We were
interesting
waiting
take.
for it.
That's an
Yeah.
interesting take,
Just
Franco.
knew, yeah, I mean, you just knew Joe Mazzulla, like, going into half too. It's like Joe Mazzulla's not stressing. He's probably looking at his guys like, "Hey, we didn't hit a lot of threes. We didn't really necessarily get what we wanted, but they're gonna fall. We're gonna find a way to get back to our game." So I'm sure the Celtics just had the utmost confidence going into that third half, and that's also a reason why they found success.
Well, talking more on that, just add another stat to the second half and the barrage from the Celtics. So the Celtics shot, or sorry, in terms of their points, where their points came from in the first half, 68% of the Celtics' points in the first half came inside the paint. Now in the second half, the Celtics, if you look, they shot 38 times in the second half, the Celtics did. 18 of those shots came from 3-point land. So a much different look for the two halves. You have in the second half, you take more shots from three than two, or I guess wait, no, I get hold up. So no, you take two less threes. So you take 22s, 18 threes in the second half. So it's a much more balanced attack, but obviously those 3-point shots are very prevalent in that second half. But in the first half, the Celtics, they score 68% of their points from the paint in the first half, 68%. And then in terms of the 3-point attempts, the Celtics shot 38 shots in the first half as well. So 38 for both halves. In the second half, 18 3-point attempts, hit 13 of them. In that first half, only 6 3-point attempts, hit none of them. So you're looking at this the first half, you have 32 twos to 6 threes. And in the second half, you have 20 twos to 18 threes, which we all know, looking at the box score for the Celtics all season long, they're more on that second half line of 22s to 18 threes. They've never been a team to shy away from 3-point shots, but as you can see, this game certainly can be termed a tale of two halves, right? We hear it all the time in NBA history, a tale of two halves, and in all of sports as well. A tale of two halves, certainly a good what do you call it for this one? A good title of the book, title of the story, a good
Sure.
a good term to use for this
Was that
game
math
tonight.
done out by pen just then, or were those stats already pulled up for you? Because I saw that you had to get some numbers crunched right there.
Well, I
On the
have,
spot.
if you really want to know, I have like 3 sheets that I look at, and then I have the digital box score up, and then, yeah, I mean, and then I have all the sheets from the first couple games to look at as well. So I have everything from the first couple games just to go back and like, oh, pull something from game 1 or game 2 or any of those. But then I have 3 sheets that I look at just generally. You gotta, to me, throughout the game, I always want to note throughout the game, like what happened in different periods. Because by the time we get on post game, we talk and ramble on for an hour and an hour and a half. It's like, oh, but so we're 50 minutes in right now. Something that happened in the first quarter. I mean, it happened 3 hours ago. It's like,
Sure.
oh,
Right.
I gotta write it down. I mean, even the 68% thing, I wrote that down from what Scal said, and he said something. The team record for points scored inside the paint in terms of percentage of points that come inside the paint is somewhere in the 50s. See, and that's just something I wrote down from the standpoint of I didn't hear the actual number, but I knew it was in the 50s, and I have it written down right here. So anyway,
I just want to touch on that too, because you're sitting there at halftime and you're looking at the box score in Boston's 0-6 from behind the arc, and you look at the score and they're only down 2.
Yeah.
And this is the second time all season that a team had not made a single 3-point attempt in the first half. Other time being, I believe, April 9th, Dallas. I don't know who they were playing, but I believe on the NBC Sports broadcast, they told us Dallas did it against Oklahoma City, I want to say. That could be that the team is, I forget. But, I mean, you're sitting there and they're only down 2, and you're thinking like, okay, well, from a win standpoint, this is still a very winnable game. You're assuming they're not going to follow up a 0 donut half from behind the arc with another donut half. So you figure they'll at least maybe double what they did, right? I guess in math terms, that would still be 0, but you guys know what I mean. Right,
CTW University. I got a broadcasting degree. I'm a dumbass. Don't worry.
Math has never been my strong suit, but you know what I mean. And exactly how it went down. It's a classic elimination game at home. Close first half. I mean, it reminded me of like Game 7 against Philly back in 2023, where the first half was close. Halfway through the third quarter is like Philly's last kind of punch. Boston withstands it, and then Boston throws their, right hook, haymaker punch that just knocks the other team out. And it's exactly what went down tonight.